Hello, everyone. How are you today? I'm so glad to see you. Here is at least one deep truth from the Repurposed and Upcycled Life. This is a book we're going to talk about today with my guest, Michelle Rayburn. You are not junk to God, and you never were. Don't we all want to hear that? Michelle's going to talk to us about her book, her business, and she's going to help us better understand keywords and hashtags. These are very small little tidbits, and they are very important that can help us grow our audience and reach our audience, stay better connected to them. Hi, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission. We present marketing tutorials and interviews to help Christian writers and speakers share their message online. This is episode number 117, guest author Michelle Rayburn. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hello from Wisconsin.
Atlanta says hello back. What's the weather like up there?
We just had some storms move through last night, so it's in the 70s. It's beautiful.
Creativity is your thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, it is. I love to, I collect art supplies. I go try something new and I have to buy new supplies, so I have to limit that. But I love that part of it, but then I also love graphics and music and other things that are also creative.
I just saw some photographs of a tablescape that you created for a party celebrating your son's engagement. Good heavens, those are beautiful photographs.
It was fun. Food can be art too.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. I don't fall in that category. I'm the recipient of my husband's creativity, but I appreciate it. Thousands of people earn their living by repurposing houses, campers, home decorations, but you go a step further. You see a spiritual connection in these projects that other people don't. Was there a single event in your life that spurred this, or has it always been a part of your life, Michelle?
I feel like I've been repurposing since before it was even cool, because I started garage sailing as a little girl, and I'd go with my grandma and my mom, and I really enjoyed doing that. And even furnishing my college dorm back in the 1980s, I took things that I picked up at garage sales. And then I started blogging about it when I was a stay-at-home mom, just because those were the people that I connected to on the other side of the screen. And then as I did more of those before and after pictures and projects, that was when I started to see there's a spiritual connection here where God can take our trashy experiences and show us something beautiful, and not everything has to be trash when we look at it with a different perspective.
Amen. Amen. And if that wasn't true, where would we be?
That's right.
You wrote a book and a Bible study guide. We're going to talk about that features that very concept. We're going to talk about them in just a little bit. But first, let's say that you like to help people discover the joy of finding God in the most unexpected places. Tell us about that, please.
I do. I actually love to sit and talk with somebody one-on-one over coffee and just hear their life story. And when I go speak somewhere, or I blog, or I talk to somebody on Facebook, I picture them sitting across from me, and we're having that conversation about what's going on in your life. Tell me about what's frustrating you. Tell me about what makes you sad. And then we look for places where do you see God still at work in this place? Where do you see hope? It really is about finding hope.
And your husband's in the ministry, right?
He is. He's in camp ministry. He's the director of maintenance at a Bible camp.
So you've always had this bent toward serving people.
I've been involved in ministry since I was a little girl. My parents were very involved in church, and so I was with them serving there, and then eventually became a piano player at church at age 16.
And also I looked at your website, and viewers, we're going to have the links for everything that we referenced today, all the resources mentioned. I always post the links above the video, and if you're watching the replay, they'll be below the video, but Michelle's website will be there as well. And on one of those special pages are free downloads of your music. Please tell us about that.
It's kind of hidden there. Many years ago, when I was a stay-at-home mom, songs would come to mind, and I would go sit at the piano when the kids were off at school, riding in the car, weird places. And so I had put together a recording, and I would sing when I'd go speak. They're sort of buried there because I don't do a lot of writing of music right now, but some people still ask about them. So they are there on my website.
I really like them. Your voice is beautiful. Free downloads. I mean, you can't beat a deal like that. That's just great.
Right, they're free. Yeah.
It's the first guest that I've had for a free music download. So, and now also you still are going through that concept of recycling in your home.
Mhm.
Did you used to live in a regular home? Because you don't now.
I used to live in a regular home. Now I live in a repurposed church, a little country church that's 100 years old that 20 years ago became a residence. And so when we moved into it, it felt like a perfect fit for a repurposer.
I know that there's sort of a trend of doing that. What drew you to that particular, either the idea or itself or that particular church for a home?
We were looking for a home near the camp. We were moving for my husband's ministry, and there weren't a lot of homes for sale. And we drove past that one a few times, and I said, that's just a weird looking house. I don't know what that is. It was for sale, so we toured it, and it was absolutely a perfect fit for us.
And you've been working on it for how many years?
We've been working on it for 13 years almost now, taking paneling down and replacing it with something a little more modern.
It's really a project of love, isn't it? Otherwise, it'd make you sort of loopy.
It is, and we do it slowly as we can afford it. I do a lot of things on the cheap, so try to make quality, but yet reasonably priced. So it's not been one of those very expensive overhauls, just a gradual upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Give us some idea of one or two of your most favorite finds that it looked like this, and now this is the purpose of it.
Oh my goodness.
I know you've got a lot to choose from.
Well, I love old windows, and if you walked through my house, you would see one on almost every wall, either an old window or an old door. And I think there's probably a metaphor there too. But as we replaced the windows in our house, I took the old windows and turned them into chalkboards and picture displays. So that's one of my favorites. And then I also really love old suitcases and trunks, and I use those as object lessons when I speak. So I've picked them up at garage sales, but my favorite one is one that was my grandfather's in World War II. And so it has his initials on the front of the little suitcase that I have.
Oh, that's cool. That's just really cool, isn't it?
Yeah. If it has a story behind it that's personal to me, I love it even more.
Yes. Did your sons, you have two sons, did they pick up that bent?
They love to go garage sailing, and they're very frugal and thrifty. But of course, no, actually they do decorate a little bit. My younger son has taken old metal parts and welded them into sculptures and repurposes wood for furniture. So yes, I guess they have picked that up.
Not the girl version, but the male
version. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my dad's picked it up now too. He's been taking pianos that people are giving away because they're no longer tunable, and he turns them all into beautiful furniture.
Pianos into furniture. That's intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's got my mind going a little bit.
I have pictures on my website.
Oh, okay. So I remember one of the stories that you had, I think it was in your book, and you were talking about how many times people have asked you at yard sales, what are you going to do with that? That's just trash. And then you actually are bold enough to tell them, and then they're disappointed that they're letting it go.
It is kind of fun. I know that's a little bit sinister that I actually like to do that because, yes, there's been a few times where I feel like they're handing it to me as they tug back, as I'm saying, oh, yes, with this 25-cent cheese grater, I'm going to turn it into a candle luminary.
One of them was, going back to the suitcase from your grandfather, one of them was a suitcase, and you were going to make a sewing machine setup out of that.
Yeah, somebody had a piece of Samsonite luggage, and she had it, I don't know, remember it was like $1 or something, and she wondered what I was going to do with it. And I said, it will perfectly fit my sewing machine. And then she had one of those, why didn't I think of that moments?
I like to see that look. I don't like to be the one giving that look.
Yes.
So you have been in advertising. You've done several different things, not even talking about the hobbies and the wedding coordinator and fill in the blank with 27 different titles you could have put underneath your business card if you listed everything you've ever done. But now you're in charge. You will have your own business, Mission and Media. Mm-hmm. And that's an online business?
Mm-hmm. It is. It's content marketing. and writing based on a strategy that connects with my client's mission.
So there are some people who are going to be watching us and they're not familiar with, they've heard the phrase content marketing. What is that? Flesh that out for us, please.
It really is getting your message out through the written word or the media that you use. And it's where you're reaching somebody with the content you write versus a print ad or radio ad or TV commercial. And it's really focused on the why, on why somebody should either hire you or read your book, or if you're helping a client with a product, why somebody should buy that product. So and it's really story-based.
Story-based, okay. Because there can be strategies attached to that, right?
Absolutely, and that's where the keywords come in that we're going to talk about this afternoon, where you don't just put up something, but you really think about it with the strategy in mind.
And even this can even apply to book launches.
Absolutely, yes. Thinking about the content that you put out there, it might be a short article based on the topic of your book. It might be an infographic that you make, or what's called a meme, where it's a photo with some inspirational words on it. That's all content that could point somebody towards your book, and ultimately really towards the message, because we don't just write books because we're reflecting on our own lives. We're writing them because we want somebody else's life to be changed.
Yes. And we don't announce that we're in the pre-launch phase. That's information that we keep to ourselves. But we one meme, one story, one inspirational thought. There's a breadcrumb trail, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Leading somebody towards a conclusion or a purchase or some sort of connection. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, tell us 2 or 3 services that you offer, please, for mission and media.
One of the things that I do is I'm an editor, and I've edited for some publishers, but also for some clients that have come to me. So somebody who's publishing a book, I will do the copy editing or proofreading. I have done website work, so updating content, writing content, going in that WordPress and getting into the database and changing the pages and moving things around. And then also social media strategy. So that includes advertising. Social media advertising is one of my specialties.
Is that all you do?
That's all I do. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So if you read all the other stuff on my website, I've weeded out a lot.
But you're a consistent content creator, aren't you? And
I am. It all ties in that way. And it really all ties into advancing the mission through story and strategy. And that helps me to narrow it down. So otherwise I could easily get distracted by a lot of shiny objects that I could run after, even for a client or for myself. You know, somebody recommends something, you think, oh, I have to do that. I'm like, I don't have to do everything.
Yes. Amen. Because the powers that be would have us think that, wouldn't they?
Right. I have to do everything in order to be effective.
Yes.
I've been playing around with figuring out how I can do less or spend less money on advertising and achieve more. And it's really fun when that works. When you realize that if you focus in one area, that you could be very effective there without having to spread out so thin and try to focus in multiple areas.
And that's one of the things that you help your clients understand and create a strategy for?
Yes, we work together. We talk about what they want to achieve. And I practice it in my own business, so I try it out first. I'm my own guinea pig.
Yeah. And are your services usually a one-off, a one-time event, or do you?
I do both.
Okay.
I have people who I work with monthly, and I have people who just need a couple hours of help. And I've even sat down over coffee or Zoom Connect and done some training on how to use your website and some of that how-to. I try to break it down into everyday terms, because there's nothing worse than being frustrated because somebody's talking way over you and you don't understand the terms.
Yes. I found as I teach online marketing that's it's a different lingo, completely different lingo. Website, WordPress website, that's a different lingo. It can be so overwhelming. It
can be.
Helps people have peace. They will be able to do these tasks. They just need somebody to guide them through the process.
Yes. There are so many tutorials out there on the web too. If you don't know how to do something, I have found YouTube to be so helpful. Some of it's the techie stuff, but some of it's just how to start a podcast or, how to set up a e-course or something like that. And there's all kinds of info out there.
You've also written, of course, you've written your books, which were almost to that point, but you've written hundreds of articles. How can you tell us? It's been so long, you may not remember, but how did you get into that?
I attended my first writers conference in 2001. And I don't know if you want me to mention the conference I went to.
Please.
It was Right to Publish. And I went every year for quite a few years. In fact, let's see, that would be 17 years now. I've missed 4 or 5, but I went to a lot of them. And I made connections with editors there. I learned how to write better, so that was a huge part of it. And then got braver every year, and then finally submitted something. And I photocopied the first check that I received to prove I got paid to write something.
Of course. I like the phrase that you just used, that you got braver every time you tried.
Oh, I used to, when you have to hit submit on an article and you think, okay, I've edited it. How many more times could I edit and change something? I had to just hit send. And there were times where I had to just look away with my finger on the edit or on the enter button and just do it. Okay, send, it's gone. Move on to the next thing. And now it's become so much easier to just think, okay, I've done this before. I can do it again.
Yes. Let me check Facebook and see if we have any comments or questions. Sally Ferguson says she loves garage sales.
Hi, Sally.
David Fulton's giving us a thumbs up.
Hi, David.
Thanks to both of you for joining us today. So glad to have you here. You're currently working on, have already, and are continuing to work on some books, rewriting the classics. Is that intimidating to say I'm rewriting the classics?
It is a bit. I've done those with Anico Press, and I have Charles Spurgeon is one of them, and that was the first one I did. And so when you're thinking, I'm editing Charles Spurgeon, that's a little bit intimidating. But what I've done is take them and write them in everyday language, as if Charles Spurgeon were here writing now instead of 125 years ago. And I've done the same with D.L. Moody and E.M. Bounds. And so 2 of them are out, more are coming, and those are all published through Anico Press. And it's just really fun to get those editing assignments.
Can you share how that opportunity, without the specifics, how did that opportunity, I mean, you went from article writing and you've written a book and a Bible study, but now this is a big deal. To me, this is a big deal.
I met the publisher, I don't even remember when. I was the president of the Western Wisconsin Christian Writers Guild for a while, and I think I met Jeremiah, the publisher, through that. And we got talking, and I began editing some books for his clients. And then this opportunity came along. And he has several editors that do this, that get assigned a classic, and then they update it, and then he publishes it. And so that opportunity came there. And part of it is because I have a connection I have a master's in ministry leadership. And so that allows me to edit some of the more theological content without being intimidated by it. Some people just, it's not that there's special credentials necessarily, but it doesn't intimidate me quite as much.
Mm-hmm. They feel, the person who might be an editor feels.
Right. Yeah.
So now in 2012, you wrote a book, which I've got all 3 of them. You may have them as well. Mm-hmm. Right here. Tabs everywhere. The Repurposed and Upcycled Life. This was published in 2012, mm-hmm. and its companion small group women's Bible study was published in 2018. Yes. Tell us about it, but all these together, but also tell us why 6 years apart, Michelle.
I had always wanted to do the Bible study part, and I had people telling me they were using the first book as a Bible study, and I never intended it to be that way. It was what some people would think of as fluffy humor with a biblical application and some challenges for everyday life, but not a lot of heavy biblical content or really a Bible study. So I kept talking about it, and then through some encouragement from other writer friends, just got it done. It was just time to get it done. I also re-released the first book this year. So that's been updated just a little bit to go along with the Bible study. And they're both available on my website.
And also on Amazon, right? I've got that.
On Amazon, yes. But if somebody wants to do a group study, I offer a significant discount if they order 10 books for their, they need them for their group. So they come through me for that, which is nice.
Make a note of that, viewers. 10 or more, you get a deep discount. And contact Michelle directly with that, please.
Yes.
Then let's talk about this beautiful.
Thank you.
You do the artwork for this. You do with so many other things.
I took photos that I turned into watercolor. So I did not draw them as watercolor. I used software that edited photos into watercolor. It was a fun way to illustrate it.
They're stunning.
Thank you. I did that book because I speak for women's events, and oftentimes it's a mother-daughter event, and the little girls don't have anything to come see, at my product table. They can't, there's nothing there for them. And I would sometimes tell that story, and they seemed to enjoy it, and the women enjoyed it too. But I have that book now so that the little girls can come afterwards and say hello to me when I'm in the back.
And the title is Jewel, a parable about living as a precious treasure. And everybody wants to be considered a precious treasure.
Yeah. Everybody needs to hear how much God loves them.
It's beautiful. And going back to the Repurposed and Upcycled Life, you mentioned earlier, very practical, end of the chapter, action points. Do this. Don't just think about it. You don't say think like so many other authors do. You challenge your readers to go and take some kind of physical action. I really like that element.
Thank you. I think if you do something with your hands, or you even make a phone call, and maybe it's on forgiveness and you need to make that phone call and do something and talk to somebody, that really makes it real.
Yes. It does solidify the truth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or do you have more in the works with everything else that you've got going on? Do you see?
I always have ideas in the works. I have things started. Yes, there are more things in the works.
Okay. Let me check and see. I think we had another comment. Let's check and see. Not there. I'm checking my profile and my page. Nope, that must have been somebody else. So, what about marketing?
Yes.
Tell us about keywords and hashtags. And they're two different things, and they reside in two different places online. Why are they so important, and what can you teach us about them in just a few minutes?
And they really do go together, even though they're different. So I'm going to give 5 tips for using keywords and hashtags to expand your reach. So the first tip is keep your focus on your audience. I think when we're making a blog post, before we think about the words, the keywords and how we get Google to find it or anything like that, we need to understand why we're writing it in the first place. And so really the strategy isn't to get book sales and that kind of thing, even though that's always wonderful if that happens. It really is about reaching people, and I need to know who that is. So it can't just be me rambling about my life and having a big rant on a blog post. It really needs to be about what's in it for the reader and why I'm writing it for them. And that will help me to direct the keywords that I use in there. What are they searching for? What would they be Googling, which is we've made that into a verb, haven't we? What would they Google that would bring them to read that post? Because they have to find it somehow. And so I have to get into their minds and think, what kind of words would they be putting in, hope in the face of, something, what would they be putting in there? And then I'm going to make sure that those words are in the article or the blog post, because that will help them to get there. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, if it's possible, they need to be in the title itself, don't they?
In the title, yep, and I'll be getting to that one in one of the coming points for sure, yes. But it's also important to know that it's not the cutesy terms that I make up. For example, for me, repurposed and upcycled is something I talk about a lot. And now it's become a term people use, but not everyone knows what that is. So I have to think about other things that they might be looking for. Or when I'm thinking about, for me, I'm talking about how our life could be repurposed. Well, what does that mean? They don't know what that means. So I have to use words like finding joy in the middle of difficulty. Joy and difficulty, we understand, versus the cutesy terms I've come up with, like discover the repurposed life. It really needs to be boiled down to every day, what is this about? So knowing my audience is number 1, important. Number 2 is I have to write with those keywords in mind. And this is really looking at what we call SEO, which is search engine optimization, but it does not have to be difficult. It sounds scary. It sounds techie. You can hire companies that do SEO for a website, and I'm not going to discredit what they do because it's fantastic. And the more you pay, the more you reach. But organically on our own, we can do quite a bit when we write with the keywords in mind. So I want to be thinking about the different variations of a word that somebody else might be looking for. So it's not that I use the same word over and over. In fact, if you've seen those blog posts where somebody's planted a word in there 50 times, that's not what we're going for. Google doesn't care about that. So we have to look at it as the like I said, the practical things. And that's directly correlated with why we're writing the article or why we're writing the social media posts, is having those keywords in mind. And I'm just going to double check here and make sure there wasn't something else that I wanted to tell you on that one before I move on. Okay. Yes, Google looks at source code. And if you wanted to, you could actually look at the source code for every website. Maybe you've accidentally clicked on the developer tools tab on your browser and gone, oh, what is all that code? That's what Google is looking at, and that's where those keywords reside. So they're in the articles. They can be added in other places on your website. And when Google's crawling around out there looking at websites, that's how your content is found. So that's where SEO, search engine optimization, is important with writing with the keywords in mind. Number 2 is know the keywords that speak to your audience. And this is where you need to do some research. You need to know what other websites that are similar to yours are using for keywords, what kinds of things are bringing people there. You can do this kind of search on Google on your own. You could type in some words and see whose websites come up. Have you done some keyword research before? Do you have any tools or anything that you've done?
I do have. The paid tools I come and go on because they're pricey.
Right. Yes. The paid tools, definitely. I actually do everything that I can possibly do for free. Yeah. So I have not done a paid one. I have, I work with some clients that have used AdWords, so I can get in the backside of their Google Analytics and look at that. But that's a whole different thing that we won't talk about. And actually, when we get into this, we could talk forever and ever. This could be a really long, it could be a whole webinar. But I've discovered a couple of resources that actually, after we're done with the live, I'll make sure I put in the comments, that just listening to podcasts, I've discovered some resources. So one of them is Uber Suggest, which is keyword ideas, and you might find some ideas for something related to your topic and find out what other websites you're using. And the other one is BuzzSumo. And that one is looking at what keywords other people are using. And like you said, Patricia, there are some paid ones out there, but I'm like trying to do it all for free. Like SEMrush is a paid, yeah, that's the one. It's a paid service that people can do, and you can try it out and see where your website lands. It was actually interesting to put mine in and see where links were coming back from other websites. Yes. So that was kind of fun.
Yes.
But I like to test keywords. So once I've decided on them, I want to put them into Google and see if the type of content I want to come up is coming up. Then I know mine will also come up. If it's leading me to adult content, and that wasn't at all right, because there are some terms that actually could lead people to inappropriate content. Yes. So just testing them out is helpful. And then it's fun to go back and test them in a couple of weeks and see if your blog post comes up, because it takes a few weeks every time Google looks for some keywords out there. It isn't always an overnight thing. And so go back and put them in and see if your blog post comes up. Then you know you're starting to reach people. I get Google. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention one more time that a keyword is, there's nothing special about it in and of itself. It's that keyword is special because it's something that will trigger your audience's reaction. That's what makes it special.
Yes, thank you. It's actually, if you boil down all the extra stuff out there, what is the thing that really is the word that's at the heart of your message? It's going back to English back in grade school when you're looking at what's the noun and the verb, really, like what's the main part of the sentence, and then what specific words are related to your topic, the thing that you're branded for, the thing that you write about, the product. So yes. Yep, thank you for that. The fourth one that we want to remember, our fourth tip, is to add keywords to images and headlines on your website. And that's what you started to talk about before. So it's important that it's not just in the body text, but that in those headlines, if marketing is the keyword I'm trying to get somebody to my website for, then I need to make sure there's a headline on my blog post or a subhead that uses the word marketing in it or something else, whatever that keyword would be. There are also ways of adding those to the photos on your website, and that's really important to go back in and do, because a lot of our photos you'll find are named image number, whatever, from your camera.
Yes.
And if you go back in and put your name on them, even do a search and see, it's amazing what will come up on Google Images on a search based on the keywords that are in that image. So if it's an image of a before and after project, I don't always remember to do that in there, but if somebody's Googling how to chalk paint furniture and I have a tutorial on my website, I should put chalk paint furniture as keywords, or just they're in that hidden, not the title, but the alternative text for your photo. And this is not real hard to do in WordPress or Squarespace or whatever platform you're doing. Once you learn how to do it, it's easy. It sounds intimidating at first for some people, but it's actually doable. So that's important to do. Google ranks headings higher on a search too. So if you have some subheadings in an article, that's really helpful than if all of your text is just regular text. So every photo, I think that was all of them. The number 5 one that I wanted to share on a tip today is that you need to use keywords for social media too. It's not just for websites. So if you've ever done a search on Facebook for something, you will see topics that come up, not even people that you know. You'll see it come up because somebody has used that in one of their posts. The other place that it's important to do this is on Instagram. And I've been doing more and more with Instagram because it is where a large percentage of reach comes from. In fact, a big why on using Instagram is that 60% of people use Instagram between ages 18 and 29. So if that's the audience that you're trying to reach, that's important. And Instagram posts that have hashtags get almost 13% more engagement than those that don't. Now, engagement is just interaction. And hashtags used to be something you'd maybe think of as just a silly thing that kids make up and put on their posts. But it actually is if you're putting a category on your post. And so Instagram sees those categories, like there's authors of Instagram, writers, marketing, content marketing, to all kinds of, it's just the topic with the little hashtag in front, and it puts your post into a category. The beauty of that is that you're reaching people who are not your followers. I follow hashtags on Instagram. Therefore, I see all the posts that have been categorized by that hashtag. So it really is important to use moms of teens or authors of Instagram or whatever that is when you're putting that post up there.
Let's go back to that just a moment again. Give us because I know that we can be found if somebody sees our hashtag or someone else's, and they type it in to the bar, and the search bar, and our content will be pulled up without our name. I mean, it's not triggered by our name or our topic. It's the hashtag that triggers it.
Absolutely.
So how do we do that? If we're a user and we want to find someone's hashtag, then pull that up. How do we do that practically?
Think about a topic and start typing it in, and you will see, like, the hashtag will pop up and it'll show you how many posts there are using it. So if there's 10, I know, okay, that's not a very popular one. Some, there's 1 million posts that are using that. So it's almost like doing a Google search, but just having a hashtag in front of it. It works on Twitter, which is actually where it started, but it's really taken off on Instagram. Okay. So Instagram is the place where, you can't share links on most posts unless you're doing a paid ad. It's a place where it's very content driven, it's story driven, it's photo and content driven, but those hashtags are the labels that bring it up. So you can put those in your first comment on a post. You don't have to put them in the description of your post itself if you think it looks too cluttered, because you've probably seen those. So if it shows up in a comment, that will also still pull your content up on somebody's hashtag search.
Okay, perfect. Toby Mac is a great example of this. He's an international singer, and he does other things as well. And hashtag Speak Life.
Yes.
So every graphic that he creates or that is created for him includes his name, which is important. If you're not doing that, please put that on your images, please, and his hashtag.
Yes. It's important to know that there are those two kinds of hashtags. The one is maybe a phrase or something from your brand, which as you gain followers becomes more popular. But it's also important to know that if you don't have the followers yet and you've coined something that's really specific to your brand, use other hashtags with it that will bring people to it, because they don't know. It's just like on your website. They don't know the cute term that you coined that goes along with your event or your ministry or your business. And then the other fun thing with hashtags is to follow events.
Yes.
Participate in the conversation around an event.
I love that feature, because we had hashtags long before the event hashtag was mobilized. And it can really inspire and draw people in and get them pre-knowledge of the event and where to meet and who's going to have lunch with somebody and all kinds of information that you would share one-on-one if you were in person, but that's not available to you.
I love to sit in a big arena of people with my Twitter open or my Instagram open and see who's using the hashtag for the conference and have conversations around an arena of 10,000 people. It's a way of building connections with people that aren't sitting next to you. And it really is a way of expanding your reach. You might meet new friends that way.
I think we've had some while you were helping us and training us. I think we've had another comment or two.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go over here. I have two locations to check. I could have sworn I saw Lisa Kibler here somewhere. Meredith Sage Kendall says, awesome advice about putting keywords in the pictures. This is very important. And once you, as as Michelle mentioned, once you get used to it, it's just another thing that you do, right? It's just natural.
Yeah.
It makes Google happy. And when Google's happy, the world is better.
So one of the things I want to do for the people who have watched today is issue a challenge. I would like people to look at those 5 tips that have to do with keywords. And those I'm going to run through are keeping your focus on your audience, write with keywords in mind, know the keywords that speak to your audience, add keywords to your headlines and other content images on your website, and then use keywords and hashtags on social media. And so my challenge would be to think of one thing that you would do in the next 30 days. And that would be whether you're going to add keywords on your website and go back in and add some on the photos, or whether you're going to start using headlines on social media or your blog that would bring people there, whether you're going to experiment with hashtags and see what happens on social media, or whether you're going to check out one of the free resources for learning some new hashtags that you can use or keywords that you can use, or whatever that is. I'd love to have people put their intentions, even after the live is closed, to put your intentions in the post so that we can have a little conversation about those goals.
Perfect. That is a great challenge. I love having practical application. Theory is helpful. Practical application is what changes us. Thank you so much. You are a font of knowledge. I'll tell you right now, we'd like to have you come back sometime as the world your schedule is free. Thank you very much for being my guest. And thank you, viewers, for joining us today. Whether you're watching the live or the replay, we so appreciate you being here. You're welcome to add comments or ask questions afterwards. Don't feel like because we're going off, the program is closing, as Michelle mentioned. We're still available. This has been Marketers on a Mission, episode number 117. My guest author, Michelle Rayburn. Tomorrow, Alice Kreider will be my guest. She's an author coach with more than 20 years experience as an editor for major book publishers. She's going to tell us all about her online training for writers, Author Access Masterclass. You're going to want to hear about that. You know, we're here every day at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern to help you develop or refine your online marketing skills so your message can spread around the globe for Christ. Until tomorrow, I'm Patricia Durgan and Michelle Rayburn. We wish you a good day. Thanks again for being here. See you tomorrow.